Is blindness a barrier? No.
Is deafness a barrier? No.
Are mobility, learning, cognitive disabilities, speech impairments and others, or even a combination of them, barriers? No way. Lack of accessibility is.
Welcome to Web Accessibility for All.
Follow the blind. This journey starts now.
Hey my friend, welcome back to Web Accessibility for All. I am your host, Ariel, software engineer, web accessibility specialist, and a blind front-end developer for the last 10 years. And let me tell you, when you rely on a screen reader to get things done, you notice every single thing that refuses to move out of your way. Today's episode is all about those interface elements that like to stick around. Literally, we'll be talking about sticky headers that follow you as you scroll down giant tables, floating tool palettes in drawing apps, popovers full of hidden content, and whether these things are a blessing or a burden when you care about accessibility.
What we mean by sticky and floating UI.
Alright, let's take a step back and define what we are actually talking about. Let's start with sticky UI. And no better example than the good old sticky navigation bar. You've definitely seen this. You visit the website, scroll down, keep reading, but the top navigation stays right there, pinned to the top of the screen. No matter how far you scroll, it doesn't go away. That's the sticky element. It stays visible, fixed in place, while the rest of the page moves underneath it. Another example is a table header row that stays stuck to the top of the viewport, while rows of data move past. This keeps context in place. Users don't have to scroll back up just to remember what each column is. Now, let's talk about floating UI. When I say floating, I mean elements that hover over the page temporarily, usually because the user clicked or hovered over something. Think of a tooltip or a popover with extra information. Or even better, think of a floating palette in a drawing app with brush sizes and colors. These aren't part of the normal page layout. They appear when needed, float above the content, and often go away when the task is done. Both sticky and floating elements are absolutely everywhere in modern web design. Designers love them because they help keep navigation, context, or quick actions always within reach. And users? They often love them too, especially when it means fewer clicks, less scrolling, and more responsive interfaces. But here is the catch. These patterns work beautifully for mouse users, for sighted users, and for folks using modern laptops or touch screens. But when you throw in keyboard navigation, screen readers, switch controls, or even zoom magnification, things can break fast. Sticky headers might look visible, but be completely unreachable by focus. Floating elements might show up visually, but not be announced by screen readers. And some actions might be right there on screen, but require 20 or 30 tab presses to get back to.
Case 1. Sticky headers in tables.
Imagine I am reviewing student grades in a long table. I'm down on row 87. I'm using a screen reader, okay? Well, the header, the one that tells me what each column actually means, is now connected to what I'm hearing. It's visible out there. It is fixed to the top of the viewport, but the screen reader doesn't announce it again unless I manually navigate all the way back to the top. And if that header has buttons to sort the table, then we've got another problem. Because now, it's not just a reference, it's an interactive control. And guess what? It's always visible, but unless we make it focusable at the right time, it's also functionally invisible to assistive tech users.
Let me just backtab through 86 cells, okay? Almost there. Well, I overshot it.
But the header is always on screen, so always visible.
Yes, visually, but not in the focus order. So what can we do about this?
Solution 1: focusable but optional.
If your sticky header contains interactive elements, make them focusable, but don't force them into the natural tab order unless needed. Use tab index -1 and programmatically move focus there when needed.
Solution 2: add landmarks or skip links.
Wrap your sticky header in a landmark like
Role equals navigation.
or
Role equals region.
with a label, so screen reader users can jump to it.
Solution 3: maintain header semantics.
Even if the header is sticky, make sure it's still a
Less thed greater.
with.
Less th scope equals col greater.
This way, screen readers can announce column headers when navigating cell by cell.
Case 2. Popovers, the good kind of floating.
You've seen them, little floating panels that show more info when you click on a word, icon, or button. Sometimes they contain help text, extra links, or even a small form. They're great for keeping interfaces clean, but only if everyone can open, use, and close them.
I made it show up on hover. Works great.
Cool. And how does someone who uses a keyboard trigger that?
With their mouse?
No way, my friend. Here's what makes a popover accessible.
1. Trigger with keyboard and mouse.
Don't rely on hover. The trigger element must also respond to enter, space, or click.
Less button. Aria has pop-up equals dialog. Aria controls equals info popover greater. More info. Less /button greater.
2. Use the Popover API or Aria dialog.
If your popover is small and non-modal, you can use the new Popover API, well supported as of 2025. If you need compatibility or you want more control, fall back to
Role equals dialog.
with
Aria modal equals false.
3. Trap focus, then return it.
when the popover opens, focus should enter it, usually landing on the first interactive element or a heading inside. And when it closes, focus should return to the trigger. Don't leave users guessing where the focus went.
Case 3. Drawing canvases and floating controls.
Imagine you are in a painting interface, like a digital canvas for kids or artists. On the side, you've got a floating color palette. Maybe there's another for brush sizes. These containers hover near the canvas, visible at all times, so users can switch tools easily. Sounds great, right? Well, it can be, but for keyboard users, screen reader users, or folks using Switch devices, these floating elements can become real traps. Let's break it down.
What's the challenge here?
When you are actively drawing, your focus is on the canvas area. Whether that means mouse interactions, touch, or keyboard, if the floating panels stay focusable, they clutter the tab order. So now, if someone is just drawing and presses tab to move to another control, suddenly they land inside the color palette when they didn't want to. Or worse, they can't draw anymore because their keyboard focus got hijacked.
The fix: mode switching via keyboard shortcuts.
Here's where keyboard shortcuts become your best friend. You treat the floating palettes as tools. Let's say pressing Ctrl plus Alt plus C opens the color picker, and pressing Escape closes it and returns focus to the canvas.
Rules for accessible sticky and floating UI.
Now let's zoom out a bit and talk about what all of this teaches us. What are the big picture rules we can follow to make sure these floating and sticky elements work accessibly?
Stick only what's useful and only when it helps.
Make sticky headers meaningful. Keep semantics in place. If there are interactive elements like sort buttons, they must be reachable when needed.
Don't break the focus order.
This is non-negotiable. Focus needs to move logically, predictably, and with user control. Invisible focus traps and unreachable floating buttons are a no-go.
Let users jump.
Whether it's skip links, keyboard shortcuts, or landmarks, give users a way to move efficiently, especially those using switch controls or screen readers.
Closing thoughts.
Here's the thing, floating and sticky elements aren't bad. They are not the villain in our story. They exist to help users stay oriented, keep actions nearby, and reduce the need to scroll or hunt for content. We can build UIs that look great and feel right, even for users who never seen them. I know because I use them every day. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Web Accessibility for All. If this helped you rethink how floating UI fits into inclusive design, like and subscribe. See you next time. Goodbye.
Thanks for joining us today. Subscribe for a new challenge next week. And don't be shy. Leave us a review or ask your accessibility questions online. See you next week for another episode of Web Accessibility for All.